Hi guys, it's Quinn here. If you appreciate my content, consider hitting the like button. It's the only way the YouTube algorithm notices me. Well, Jessica, I see that your son is indeed the one. For that you can be forgiven even the abomination of your daughter. Paul stilled a cold, piercing anger, said, "You've never had the right or cause to forgive my mother anything." The old woman locked eyes with him. "Try your tricks on me, old witch," Paul said. "Where is your gum, Jabbar? Try looking into that place where you dare not look. You'll find me there, staring out at you." The old woman dropped her gaze. I don't even know how to begin expressing my excitement as someone that has waited so long to see Dune on screen, and as someone that has waited so long to see these scenes on screen. It is so incredible to get yet another trailer. This is definitely the best of the trailers that have come out so far, and I think this trailer probably represents what we will actually see in the movie the most out of all the trailers that have come out. Alright, so the trailer opens up with Paul and Chani, and Paul is having prophetic dreams, fragments of all of these possible futures, and he can't really make sense of any of it. And the reason he can't really make sense of any of it is, though his powers have been awakened by the spice melange, he is not the Kwisatz Haderach yet. There is another step, and that step is called the Spice Agony. In the beginning of the Dune book, the Reverend Mother Goddess Helen Mohayam says to Paul, "Many men have tried to become the Kwisatz Haderach." And Paul says, "They tried and failed?" And she says, "No, they tried and died." The Spice Agony is very, very dangerous, and not even all of the would-be Reverend Mothers who attempt the Spice Agony survive it. You see, the Bene Gesserit spend their entire lives doing Prana Bindu training, honing their minds and bodies, developing precise control over their bodies' functions. And yet, only even some of them reach the level to where they can even attempt the Spice Agony. The Spice Agony is dangerous because of the use of the Truth Sayer drug, which is deadly. The Bene Gesserit woman who consumes the Truth Sayer drug must convert the deadly poison from within her own body. In doing so, she unblocks her genetic memory, gaining all access to the matriarchal half of her genetic memory, but she does not have access to the paternal half. The Kwisatz Haderach would have that access. That's why we hear in this trailer, the Reverend Mother Goddess Helen Mohayam says, "We have never seen power like this in our world." She is referencing almost certainly the power of the Kwisatz Haderach, the power to look into the past and the future and become the fulcrum by which the fate of the universe turns. We also hear Paul Atreides in this trailer saying that he sees a narrow way forward. So there's all of these paths that lead to the victory for House Harkonnen and the destruction of House Atreides. And there is a narrow path forward that leads to House Atreides' success. But the thing is, that narrow way forward, though it leads to the success of House Atreides, is going to have ruinous results for the universe. And those are the visions that Paul saw in the tent in the first movie. The jihad, the Fremen marching out into the universe, the Atreides banner flapping, worshipping at the shrine of his father's skull. There are always consequences for everything. There is no success for House Atreides without consequence. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. House Atreides may prevail in the end, but at what cost? Another thing that I really liked about this trailer was the shots of the Bene Gesserit and the shots of what I believe are Fremen Saiyadina and Fremen Wild Reverend Mothers. We get a very nice shot of the Lady Jessica as a full Reverend Mother, and we also see another shot of what looks like several Fremen Reverend Mothers standing in a row, and maybe some younger Sayadinas in the background. So as I mentioned earlier, the Bene Gesserit can consume the Truthsayer drug, convert it in order to unblock their genetic memories. After doing so, they become Reverend Mothers. But the Fremen have also developed this ability. Some of their women also have the potential to become Reverend Mothers. Now, some of this has to do with the fact that the Bene Gesserit have been at work on Arrakis, seeding mythologies, seeding legends. But anyway, these women would also have access to ancestral memories, Fremen ancestral memories. Now, these memories would go back very far. The Fremen, of course, were once the Zensuni wanderers. They moved from planet to planet to planet, being ostracized on each planet before they eventually came to Arrakis. So it's nice to see the Fremen Reverend Mothers, and it's nice to see like a little shot of the Bene Gesserit, who seem to always dress in black, as opposed to the Fremen Reverend Mothers, who have more colorful wardrobes, it seems. Another thing that I'm very excited about is this single shot of this spherical ship that's entering the atmosphere of Dune. I think it looks awesome, and I believe that this is probably the Emperor's ship coming to Arrakis, and that's very exciting. One thing that I would love to see in this movie, though it's not in the book, but it was in the David Lynch film, is a guild navigator. There is no traveling in the universe without guild navigators, so we can assume they're here. The guild navigators are essentially these fish-like humans that swim around in these large tanks, pumping with spice, and they have a form of prescience, and this allows them to detect obstacles in outer space and prevent the guild highliners from crashing into them. Previously in the Dune universe, this type of thing would have been calculated with computers, but after the Butlerian Jihad, of course, they don't allow any type of thinking machine. So the guild navigator mutants step in to fill that role. And I just think they're really cool, and the way they're described in the book is really awesome, and I would love to see that on screen. But even if we don't get it in this movie, Villeneuve actually did confirm that he is totally writing the script for Dune Messiah, and that it's almost done actually. So it does seem like we're going to get a Dune Messiah movie, and there's definitely a guild navigator in Dune Messiah named Edric, and he actually plays a pretty significant role. So even if we don't get a guild navigator in this movie, hopefully in the next one. So obviously a huge chunk of this movie is going to involve the war between the Fremen and the Harkonnens. It's a war for liberation. It's a war to end oppression. The Fremen have been on Arrakis for many generations. It is their home. They are deeply connected to it, and they're going to fight for it. And one of the absolutely most incredible moments of the trailer, where I literally had to stand up and yell because I just couldn't believe I was seeing it on screen, was obviously when the Fremen ride the sandworms into battle. That was one of the most epic parts of the book. It is such an awesome moment in the book because it's so finally we're harnessing this desert power against those who oppress us, and I cannot wait to see that in theaters on the biggest screen possible. I could not be more excited. The one thing that I would have loved to have seen that we're not getting, I don't think, is the flames within. It does mention in the books, I believe it's Children of Dune that mentions this specifically, that within the worms is this furnace, this fire inside of them. And when they open their mouths up, you can kind of see within them the glow of this furnace within. And I always thought that would look just incredibly eerie on screen. But it doesn't look like they're going with that, stylistically. But maybe we'll see something like that in the next movie, potentially. We also get a lot of shots of Feyd-Rautha in this trailer, and he's definitely eerie. He's definitely a creep. He freaks me out a little bit. I'm excited to see this portrayal. Now, visually, the portrayal of Feyd-Rautha is a departure from the book, and the Harkonnens have all been somewhat of a departure visually from the book, I would say. In the book, they've all got red hair, and in the Villeneuve one, they're all, of course, bald. So it was obviously an intentional visual choice to make them all bald, and that also makes it more distinct from the original David Lynch movie, which he does go with the red hair in that. For as much as he changes as far as like the Dune storyline narratively, he kept the red hair. So I do think Butler's bringing a very ominous presence to Feyd-Rautha that we haven't seen in the adaptations of Feyd-Rautha previously. You know, Sting wasn't really menacing, and I feel as though the miniseries portrayal of Feyd-Rautha is pretty forgettable. I don't think this one is going to be forgettable. I think this will probably be a performance that at the very least is going to stick with people. There are a few other interesting shots in the trailer as well. For one, we see Paul Atreides staring out into an ocean. And obviously this stands out to me because there are no oceans on Arrakis. There are no oceans on Arrakis. So this, I think, must be a vision of some kind, or a memory of some kind of him remembering Caladan. Another interesting thing about this trailer, and the other ones too, is I can definitely see a change in Chani's character from the book, where she is more skeptical, it seems, of, you know, the prophecy and everything that's happening. She says specifically this prophecy is what they use to enslave us. And she's absolutely correct, right? The Bene Gesserit have seeded myths on Arrakis in an attempt to manipulate the people to serve their own will. And Paul and his mother Jessica are going along with it, essentially, utilizing the seeded myths to manipulate the Fremen and lead to a victory for House Atreides. Now, I don't know to what extent Chani is going to conflict with Paul himself over this. I guess we'll see it, but it does look like at least she's trying to convince the Fremen of the truth of this. And it remains to be seen, I guess, the degree to which she will succeed. Now, I remember in the other trailer, there's a line from Stilgar saying, "I don't care what you believe. I believe what I believe," or something like that. And he was either saying that, I think, to Chani or Paul. If he was saying it to Chani, that's one thing. But him saying that to Paul himself would be very interesting. Because if Paul himself is telling Stilgar, "I am not actually this person. I am not actually this Lisan al-Gaib," and Stilgar is still rejecting it when it's coming from Paul himself, that shows you the true extent of blind faith and fanaticism. That shows you how hard it is to let go of these kinds of beliefs once they've ingrained themselves into your brain. And I'm also sure that Stilgar and the Fremen have put a lot of their hopes into this legend of the Lisan al-Gaib, this legend of this liberator that's going to come and free them from oppression because they've been oppressed for so long. You're not going to be able to convince them that it's not true at this point in time. Not when victory and freedom from oppression is so close. So though I think Chani's right, I do also think that her statements are mostly going to fall on deaf ears. So that's an interesting change from the book. And I hope that that brings some more dynamics between those two characters. I think that could be something really interesting that we could see play out on screen. We also get some shots of the Princess Irulan and Christopher Walken as the Emperor. Check out my video on the first 10 minutes of Dune Part 2 if you want to hear me talk more about the Emperor and the Princess Irulan, because I talked a lot about them in that video, so definitely check that out. I'm very excited for Florence Pugh's performance as the Princess Irulan, and I'm definitely very excited for Christopher Walken's performance as the Emperor Shaddam Carino IV. This trailer is incredibly epic. I saw a lot of scenes that I really loved from the book. I am so freaking pumped to see this movie. I haven't been this excited to see a movie since the first one, honestly. I'm really happy we got this trailer, and I cannot wait to see the movie. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you like and subscribe for more Quinn's ideas. If you want to learn more about the Dune lore, check out the playlist linked in the description. I've done tons of videos over the years covering just about every aspect of the Dune series. Thanks so much for listening, guys.